The book of Ezekiel is a vision that God gave Ezekiel for much of the last days. And God is speaking in parables through Ezekiel because he doesn't want the wicked people to understand. And he says that in his word. The book of Ezekiel is for that time frame, but it's also a vision for the future of the last days. We know this because he told Ezekiel in 12:27, this is for a latter time, for a time far off. God is speaking of the destruction of Egypt at that time frame, but he's also speaking in parables of the latter days of the destruction and how Satan fell and how Satan is going to be destroyed. Those who have ears and eyes and spiritual understanding will know this. God is talking about the fall and how beautiful both of these kingdoms were at one time. And he uses a cedar to represent it. And when he's talking about the two kingdoms, he's talking about Egypt in that time frame when he gave it over to Pharaoh. And he's talking about the fall of Satan, how Satan fell. And he's given the prophecy of the latter days of how he's going to throw Satan down to the pit and Satan's going to be judged. Now, in the book of Ezekiel, it talks about how Egypt will be desolate for 40 years. See, a lot of us wasn't way back then, and a lot of people may not know about the desolation, but we can look at the fact that it has several deserts, several deserted areas known as, number one, the eastern, number two, the western, number three, Sinai. Now, it doesn't specifically maybe say this in the Bible, but common sense lets you know these are three lands over there, deserts, that have no occupation of human life living there, which can only leave us to the understanding that at one time, this most likely was those kingdoms of Egypt that God destroyed. Now, in the beginning of the book of Ezekiel, God was saying how he was very upset with Jerusalem because it had followed after the ways of the Egyptians. See, the Egyptians did a lot of demonic things against God. They would worship idols that they made with their hands out of rocks and stones, and they would make up false gods and try to worship them. A lot of what we do in the last days, we idolize famous people. We idolize things that are made with the hands of man. And God is very wroth and displeased with that. For in chapter 30, verse 3, it says, the day of the Lord is near, a cloudy day. It shall be to the time of the heathen. Trust me, he's talking about the last days. Get ready, you guys. So I'm going to continue this in a series, but just understand that God is wroth with people sinning against him. And I encourage you to get your hearts right with God and love him. Stay tuned for part 2. God bless.